Are you ready to sow your own hollyhock seeds in your garden, but you're not really sure how to get started?
Well, if you are, that's great, because today we're going to show you how to sow your hollyhock seeds indoors and outdoors step by step.
Hi, we're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to help you in your garden. But before we get to that, did you know hollyhocks are actually considered mostly a biennial type of plant, which means they usually don't flower till their second year of growth. But some can be considered short-lived perennials, and actually there are a few that can bloom in their first year if you get them started early enough.
Yeah, and to grow hollyhocks in your garden, you'll need a full sun location, but they will tolerate part shade. You'll also need nutrient-rich, well-draining, moist soil. Now, before we show you how to sow these hollyhock seeds, there's a couple things we'd like you to know. First, hollyhocks, and they're also known as Alcea rosea, that's their Latin name, they're hardy in zones generally 1 through 12. Now, they come in a lot of different colors, including blue, red, white, purple, black, and many other variations of that. Now, the hollyhock seeds we're going to show you how to sow today are called Indian Spring Mix, and they're generally known as a biennial, but they have been known to flower in their first year if you plant them soon enough in that year. Indian Spring Mix will produce either single or semi-double types of flowers that are different shades of pink. Now, it can grow up to 60 inches tall, and it has a very upright form. It'll flower from the summer through the fall, and it has regular or average water needs, so you'll need to make sure that you keep that soil consistently moist its whole growing season. Indian Spring Mix will add lots of height and texture to any garden, and it does really well in container gardens, cut flower gardens, and cottage gardens. Now, taller growing hollyhocks, like Indian Spring Mix, pair really well with vertically growing either perennial or annual plants like marigolds or sunflowers or asters. In general, hollyhocks are drought resistant and cold tolerant. They are resistant to deer and rabbits, and they attract a lot of different pollinators, including bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds.
When you're getting ready to sow your own hollyhock seeds, you need to decide when you want to start them. You can either start them indoors or outdoors, depending on the timing and when you want them to bloom. For outdoor direct sowing, plan to sow them 1 week before your last projected frost date, so you can safely get them in the ground. If you want to get them going early and get them started indoors, plan to start them about 9 weeks before your last predicted frost date for your area, and then once they're ready, transplant them about 2 to 3 weeks after the final frost so that they can start growing in your garden. Whether you plan to sow your hollyhock seeds indoors or outdoors, they could benefit from a 12-hour soak before you sow them. It's not required, but it is helpful to get them germinated. All right, let's get ready to sow your hollyhock seeds indoors. And the first step is to gather your seed cell trays and pre-moisten seed starting soil or potting soil that you're going to use for planting. The next step is to grab a seed sowing tool like this dibber here. This is our Dibby XL, and make 1/4 inch holes, 1 per seed cell. Next, carefully grab your seeds out of your packet and drop 1 to 2 seeds in each of the cells. Now, these seeds do need light to germinate, so don't bury them in the soil too deep. Carefully cover each of the holes with soil. And the last step is to gently water over the top using a mister or really light spray to start the germination process. And that's how you sow your hollyhock seeds indoors.
So once your hollyhocks have developed 2 sets of true leaves and they look like this and they're really well grown, they're nice and healthy, you can start to think about transplanting them out into your garden. But you need to make sure that the threat of frost has passed before you transplant them. Now, also before you transplant them out into your garden, you need to harden them off and get them acclimatized to your garden, to its environment. And you'll take them outside for about an hour or 2 every day for over a 2-week cycle, a 2-week period, and every day you'll keep them outside for a little bit longer in a full sun or partial shade location, and you'll get them acclimatized to your garden. Now, the last 2 or so days, at the end of that 2 weeks, you'll keep them out overnight so they really get used to those overnight temperatures, and then at the end of that 2 weeks, you can transplant them out into your garden. Now that our hollyhocks are hardened off, we can transplant them out into the garden like a garden bed or in a container like you see here. So let's transplant these seedlings into this container. You want to space each one of these hollyhock seedlings at least 18 inches, if not up to 36 inches apart from each other. So for each seedling, make sure to match this soil level to this soil level in the container so it's not planted too deep or too high, because that can lead to other factors or other issues that you don't want to contend with. So just dig your hole, break up the roots just a little bit, and then place it down in the hole and make sure to match those soil levels So we perfectly plant it in the container there in the soil. And the very last step is to water in your seedlings to make sure they have plenty of water right after they're planted. And that's how you transplant your hollyhock seedlings. Now, to direct sow your hollyhock seeds outdoors into the garden or in a container, make sure the threat of frost has passed. Now, you can use a potting soil mix like we have here, or any general type of garden mix will do, as long as it has well-draining soil. Now, these Indian Spring Mix hollyhocks need to be spaced at least 18 to 36 inches apart. So to do that, we are going to take our hori-hori knife and we're going to go edge to edge. So we have 18 inches from edge to edge of this container, so we can place 2 hollyhock seeds in this container. So that's what we're going to do. So to sow your seeds outdoors, make sure to have your favorite seed sowing tool, and we've got ours here, our Diby XL, and we're going to sow these seeds a 1/4 inch below the soil level as it calls for on the seed packet. Take the seeds out of the seed packet and put 1 seed in each hole that you just made, and then lightly cover them. And the last step is to water them in. You want to water them in thoroughly and make sure that water is tightly around that seed in the soil so you have the best chance of germination. In the weeks and months to come, make sure to consistently water your plants and your seedlings and keep that soil consistently moist so they're never out of water. You want to make sure to protect your plants and your seedlings from slugs and snails, as they are very susceptible. Also, make sure to place some stakes in the container or in the garden where you have your hollyhocks planted, because as they continue to grow, they will get more top heavy and they will be more apt to fall over. Now, to extend the life of any of your hollyhock plants from biennial to perennial, make sure to remove any faded flowers. It keeps the life of the plant continually growing and developing those flowers. Now, also keep up the weeding around your plants so your plants aren't competing with those weeds for nutrients and for light or water. You also can mulch around your hollyhocks to keep the moisture readily available to the plants and to help with weeding. You can also put your hollyhock plants on a weekly fertilizing schedule to keep plant health high. Now, as each flower fades, you can remove it by following that stem all the way down to the base of the plant and cutting down there. Now, in the fall, the plants will die and they'll wither back down to the ground. This is a great time to cut the whole plant down to a few inches above the ground and then place some mulch over the top so you can extend its life and hopefully get another season of growth out of it. Hollyhocks are susceptible to weevils, aphids, and spider mites, or other bugs that are actually in your area, so make sure to keep an eye out for any of those regional pests. And they're also susceptible to different kinds of fungal diseases, including rust, so make sure not to overwater your hollyhock plants. Make sure to water down at the soil level so you're not watering the leaves continually and encouraging those fungal diseases to keep growing.
Hollyhocks make great cut flowers with their long stems, and to cut them for cut flowers, you need to make sure that the stems are at least 12 to 18 inches long when you harvest them. Always make sure to harvest in the early morning after watering, when the plants are least stressed and the stems are strong. After you cut your stems, make sure and keep them in a cool, dry location and in a bucket of cool water until you're ready to put them in a vase.
Now, if you need more flower planting, growing, or harvesting tips, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com and check out their planting guides.
And we hope that video was really helpful for you in getting your own hollyhock seeds started. And from us at Spoken Garden and Eden Brothers, thank you for watching.